Hey everybody, welcome to Board Game Barrage, and today we're going to be looking at a board game review. Hey everybody, welcome back to Board Game Barrage. You're here with Jeff, and today we're going to be doing a review of the Kickstarter game 5 Minute Dungeon. So 5 Minute Dungeon is a game by Connor Reed. It plays 2 to 5 players, and it plays in about 30 minutes assuming that you beat the game. So how it works is you grab you and your friends, and you're going into a dungeon, and you're trying to beat all 5 boss monsters. You have 5 minutes to beat each one, and if you don't, then you lose. But once you beat one, the time stops, obviously. You have 5 minutes to beat the first one, and then you reshuffle the deck up, and then you play the next one. So there are 5 different people that you can be in the game, and each one has a unique deck. And so what you do is you grab your unique deck of resources and you try and go through and beat the boss. It's pretty simple, but it's really fast paced and I like it a lot. So going to the components, the game comes with 5 different player boards, which are front and back, and 5 unique decks for each board. So each player, the only difference on the boards is each side has a different special effect. And you go from there, and you grab a unique deck, and each deck has different resources that you're going to be using to defeat the boss, and each one has different special powers. Going on to components now, the card stock is pretty good. I would recommend sleeving them because those are the most heavily used part of the game, and they will pretty easily get damaged because of what you do with them, and I'll show you what that is when we go into the setup and the gameplay. The other 2 components are the player boards and the boss boards, and they're both made of a really thick cardboard, and they're a great quality, so no complaints there at all. So that's basically everything there. I'm going to run through setup and some gameplay now, and then we'll be back here to give you my final thoughts. So let's go take a look. Alright, so we're going to set up 5 Minute Dungeon. So it's pretty simple. There are 5 different player boards you can pick from. You got, and they're all double-sided, so you got Huntress, Ranger, Paladin, Valkyrie, Thief, Ninja, Barbarian, Gladiator, and Sorceress, Wizard. So every player just grabs whoever they want to be. We're going to play a 3-player game. We'll grab the Wizard, we'll grab the Valkyrie, and we'll grab the Ranger. The other 2 you just put aside. And then each player grabs whatever deck is the same as the color they grabbed. So the Wizard would get the blue deck, and he would shuffle it up, and it would go to his draw pile. The Valkyrie would grab the yellow deck, and she'd shuffle it into her draw pile. And the Ranger would grab the green one, and shuffle it, and put it into his draw pile. Then, depending on the number of players that are playing, you draw a certain amount of cards, and that's your starting hand size. Pretty simple. For 4 or 5 players, it's 3. For 3 players, it's 4. And for 2 players, it's 5. Then, what you're going to do is grab whatever boss you're trying to beat. So at the start of the game, it'll always be boss number 1, which is the baby barbarian. Tells you which boss number he is in case you're looking for the next one. The amount of cards that start in his deck, and whatever it takes to defeat him in terms of resources. And we'll get into that a little bit later. So you're going to put that in the center of the table. And then you need 20 of his cards. So, door cards look like this. They just look like doors. You're going to shuffle these up and then take out 20 to form his deck. So once you have his 20, you put them down. The rest get put aside. And then you grab these special cards here, which are like event cards. These are really hard cards. And you add 2 of these for every player playing. So 2, 4, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The rest get put aside. And then you just shuffle these 2 together any way you wanted. So do that. Now, sticking them in. And then you just shuffle his deck. And of course I lost a card, but whatever. And then you set him there. And then you're basically ready to play. And that is how you set up the 5 Minute Dungeon. It's really simple, it's really quick. and I'll run through what happens during gameplay. It's also pretty simple, but we'll run through that pretty quickly. So let's go take a look at that. All right, so we're back. Everyone has drawn their starting hands. You do keep them hidden, but you can say what you have and what you're going to play. That's part of the game. So each player starts with 4 cards in a 3-player game, and that's what we're playing. And then there are 2 different types of cards. There are resource cards, which look like this. There's jump. There's ranged attack, which is the arrow. There is the shield. There's the scroll. And then there's also the sword, which I'll just show you what it looks like. Then there's the sword. Okay. Then there's also special cards, which are going to have a black border, such as this one. And they all have different special effects based on which character you're playing. This is a special one for the green deck, which is the ranger or the huntress, and it's called wild card. It counts as any resource you want, which is a very powerful card, and that's in his hand. There's also generic ones that are in every deck, depending on who you're playing. So this one just says defeat a monster. Pretty simple. So the way the game works is once the first card of the deck is turned over, the 5-minute timer begins. So we'll say once you flip this over, the 5-minute timer begins, and then everyone just starts playing cards. So this one is an event, so no one would have to play any cards, and all it says is all players discard 3 cards. So then everyone, as fast as they could, would discard any 3 cards they wanted. So we'll just say, discard, 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 and then anytime you're below your starting hand limit, you automatically draw back up. So as soon as they all discarded 3, they'd all draw back up to 4 and continue playing. Then the next door would get flipped. All players pass your hand to another player. So extremely quickly, everyone would just say, okay, I'm passing my hand to you. He's passing his hand to me. He's passing his hand to the ranger. So now he has both of their hands. He has no hand, so he would then draw up to 4. Then the next card would get flipped. There you go. So most of the door cards are going to tell you what they are. They're going to be either obstacle, monster, or person. They're going to tell you what it is. That's a collapsed ceiling. And then it tells you the resources you need to defeat it. So you need 2 scrolls and a sword. So then as quickly as players could, you just start throwing resources at the table. So I've got a sword. And then if he's like, I've got 1 scroll, and then no one else seems to, he would draw a new card for playing that. He wouldn't, because he's still at way more cards than 4. And then he'd be like, no one else has a book. All right, wild card. As soon as you beat it, they all get swept away. You'd also sweep these events away into a pile. And then you draw the next card. So this one's a mini boss. So the mini boss can't be defeated by any of these special cards that I told you about earlier. There's none of those. And it takes more resources to beat. So this one needs 2 arrows, a scroll, and 2 jumps. So if he's like, I've got to jump, this guy down here has 2 arrows. So now again, they need a scroll. He could just be like, okay, this is now a scroll. As soon as you do that, they all get thrown away. And you go to the next one. 2 swords and a shield. I've got a shield. No one else has it. Well, he can use his special effect, which is Trick Shot, discard 3 cards to defeat a person. Important note, once you discard cards, they go to the discard pile. If you use them as a resource, they go away. So he gets defeated even though he used this card and didn't defeat it using the resources. He used his special effect. It still goes away. So this is where the game gets interesting. If I flip over a card that needs 2 arrows, say, and 1 shield, if both of these players are not talking, he would also need 2 more cards in his hand, and he would need 1. If they're not talking and they both go, arrows, they're all wasted. All the cards are wasted. Even though it only needs 2, all the cards are wasted. And then he plays a shield and gets rid of the guy. And that's basically the whole game. You keep going through the cards. Everyone dumps their hand, trying to get rid of all the cards. Once you defeat all the cards, you need to match all the symbols here and you can't play cards that don't match the symbols. So for example, if I threw the 2 swords, no one had arrows, well, he would draw more cards. There you go, he drew arrows. So now he can be like 2 arrows, a jump, a jump. Against any of the cards, you can just play cards to get rid of them and get them out of your hand so you can draw more cards. However, at the boss, you cannot do that. So like I can't be throwing shields out to draw more cards. So this guy would basically be sitting there going, I don't have it. There's no way I can do it. This guy would draw more cards. Hopefully he draws a jump. He did draw a jump, so he would throw the jump out. The boss is defeated. You stop the timer. If you're under 5 minutes, congratulations, you win. If not, I'm sorry, you have to try again. And that's the whole game. It's a really quick, fast-paced game. It's really simple. So let's go back to the table, and I'll give you my final thoughts. And that was 5 Minute Dungeon. As you can see, it's pretty simple. It's easy to teach. It's not a heavy game at all, but there's a lot of coordination and planning needed before you jump into the dungeon and just go in blind and everyone just starts throwing cards. Because once you get to the higher and higher bosses, you need more cards to beat each boss because there's more cards in the boss deck. So you don't want to everyone just start throwing cards down and, oh, we beat it, move on to the next one. You need to plan on who's going to play what, and that takes more time. So, yeah, you know what? It's a really neat experience. It's not a game that you're going to want to pull out every single week, but it's definitely a game. It's a fun filler game. It's a fun intro game into the game night, but it can be pretty stressful, which is also funny. The one effect I found that's really good is stopping the clock. So the yellow deck, which is the Paladin or the Valkyrie, and the Wizard on the blue side, the Wizard can stop time with his special effect. Those are really much needed. You really need to pick the right time to do that, and it helps so much because it stops the clock and you guys can sit down and think about what's coming up next, which I really like. I think the game needed that. Overall, experience was excellent. We did manage to get through all 5. It is a really good game. I highly recommend it. I honestly give it an 8 out of 10. It's a very solid pickup game and play. You're rushing through a dungeon with all your buddies. It is fully co-op. You can't screw anyone over, so some people may not like that. Also, if you are not a fan of real-time and fast-paced, because this is extremely fast-paced, I know with one of the final bosses, like it's 50 cards plus 2 for every player, so you don't get a whole lot of time to do each card. So if you don't like fast-paced and thinking on your feet, this may not be the game for you. But it is worth giving it a try. It's really fun. It's really easy. So that is 5 Minute Dungeon. That's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Board Game Barrage. Take care, guys. Thank you so much for watching our video. For more, you can visit our channel for weekly updates or subscribe below. Thanks again.